Is your debt causing you sleepless nights? Knock your debt out with Debt KO. And your debt won't be the only thing keeping you up at night. Debt KO, free, impartial advice on all your debt.
This is something that comes along every now and then in generation, and it's special.
Andrew McCART, IFL TV, in association with MTK Global. I'm very delighted to finally be joined by Mr. Paul Reddy. Paul, we're here for Callum Smith, here in Texas for Callum Smith Canelo fight. Now, a lot of people on Twitter would have seen that a lot of folk were saying STN management, STN sports even. Might be wondering, who are these guys? But for you, you can probably explain that better than most.
Yeah, so, well, firstly, Andy, great to spend a bit of extended time. I know we spoke about it a few times just on passing at shows, but we've had a bit of a laugh in the bar room this week, just with the group and stuff. So, yeah, Second to None Sports, we launched in November. We went Friday the 13th, just as a good omen, a bit of a play on that. But we are, it's Sean O'Toole, a business partner who's a sports lawyer, works closely with Callum Smith, and myself, ex matchmaker at Matchroom. I worked there for 5 years, 2 doing social media. The final 3 years was as a licensed matchmaker, so worked with Boazia, Coley, Cordina, Conor Benn, Katie Taylor, to name a few. Matched them. Katie Taylor was a couple of fights in up to world title, passed over to Reddy. But yeah, new management company. I've got a professional manager's license myself. Sean's obviously qualified in his area as well. So yeah, we've come in, going to make some space for ourselves, and yeah, it's going to be exciting. We're going to work with some exciting fighters, and really looking forward to it.
You said that you're a matchmaker for Matchroom.
Yeah.
Now, that's where I know you from. You're probably, your face is more popular within the background of professional boxing, but
Face for radio.
I don't think about that. You were told, somebody said, in fact, it was Ellie Seckback that said, are you and Anthony Corolla brothers? So that's a compliment. He's a good-looking boy.
Mate, I'll take that. I mean, it could have been the light. It could have been a number of things. Corolla was a bit further away. I don't know how Seckback's eyesight is, but no, I'll take that every day of the week.
So that's what I was going to say. You did get a brief background on what you're doing, but I want you to, just for the people that don't know who Paul Reddy is, just to give a little bit more in-depth background on your background and your history in the sport and stuff like that.
Yeah, so started doing a boxing blog as a bit of a hobby, really. I was working in IT as a project manager. Previously, always been a big boxing fan. Growing up, both sides of the family were big on boxing, and I just felt that first child was born. I felt it was kind of time for me to actually do something that I'm passionate about. I'm sure you've gone through that part yourself, and you kind of just think, well, look, you're going to work for a long time, so why not do something you've got a vested interest for? Because like what you're doing now, there's times when you'll go and do stuff because it doesn't feel like work, and boxing doesn't feel like work. Like, as crazy as this week is, it's been mentally busy for all of us, but it doesn't feel like work. It's enjoyable. There's long hours and it's tiring and stuff, but we're not getting in the ring, so it's still an amazing buzz to be around all these guys. So yeah, started a boxing blog, interviewing fighters, Darren Barker, John Ryder, Kevin Mitchell when he was at Tony's gym, so those guys gave me some time. Peter Sims was brilliant as well early on, and just kind of networked from there, really. Got on Matchroom's press list, big up Anthony Lever for that, and yeah, man, just got on Eddie's radar. I've done a sit-down interview with Barry, who's written. I mean, I'm not a journalist by any stretch, I think, and yeah, just Barry was brilliant. Just done, gave me some really old war stories, and off the back of that, the infamous Matchroom barbecue that used to take place, that's a bit before your time. I know Cougs, wee bit. Cougs was probably there smashing the ribs, I'm sure, back in the day. But and then I got invited to that, and then just a bit of networking. I just had a chit chat with Eddie, and we just kind of hit it off. And I started going to a couple of shows. I remember I went up to Hull for
Tommy Coyle fight?
Yeah, it was Coyle. I think
Derry Matthews?
No, it wasn't Derry Matthews. It was Coyle against. It's going to bug me now. Campbell was on. I think it was Campbell.
It was Argentinian.
Yes. No, sorry, not Brazuela.
Yeah.
It wasn't Brazuela. It was a different one. So it was. Who was Gethin?
Gethin.
Martin Gethin. Yeah, and then Campbell boxed someone else, and they were just starting to build that fight. So I'd driven up to Hull. I live Hertfordshire. It was a mission. My missus was like, "Fuck you going up there?" On a Saturday. But I just felt, look, I've got to put myself out there. I stayed in a really crap B&B, nans, duvets, and blankets. But I knew, I was like, no, I'm going to go for this. I wanted to work for Matchroom. I wanted to get a job in the industry, and then just, the stars like Matt Rich. Big up Matt Rich, who works for obviously the World Boxing Super Series. He left. I stepped in, done his social media role, and then just from doing that, sat next to John Wishausen, who's Matchroom's long-standing matchmaker. We used to just, probably used to bore the arse off the other people. There's times I'd look over at Frank, and Frank's like, fucking boxing geek, you know, just talking shit about fights and stuff. But it obviously paid off, because when John left, they could have got someone over from the States, they could have, you know, tapped up someone from another promotional outfit, but they took a punt on me, and, you know, I'll always be eternally grateful for that. Come in, first show I'd done, I think it was McDonnell Ray Vargas, back in Hull again. Back in Hull again, and yeah, it was cool. And then the first pay-per-view was Joshua Klitschko at Wembley, sort of small one. So yeah.
Small one. Paul, to be honest, that's quite an interesting, because I started a boxing blog. I stepped at firstclassboxing.com.
I remember seeing that. Yeah. Wow.
What was yours called?
It's called Elite Boxing.
Elite Boxing.
Yeah, shit.
See, there's something we've got in common then. Yeah. I knew I'd like you. Yeah. So the management side of things. I mean, like, for me as well, like, I'm passionate about boxing. Like, why management? Why not sort of like coaching and stuff like that? I know you were the matchmaker, and I know how hard it is sometimes to get the fights, but you're involved quite a lot. You phone up trainers, you do this, you ask about this guy and that. But why management, and why not something else in the sport?
Because I think, look, the coaching side, greatest respect, I think the best coaches tend to be ex-fighters. It's different to football. You know, you've got sort of your Klopps, your Mourinho's, your Pep Guardiola is different because he played for Barca, but I think in boxing the best coaches are the ones that have been in there and kind of understood the sport. They've, you know, certainly at some level, you know, they tend to be the better coaches. Funny enough, that I never really had a kind of aspiration or passion to do that, but the management side, because the matchmaking is, you're doing the career mapping, it's kind of almost you're on the other side. So I thought, well, actually, imagine managers do that. They'll sit down with their fighters and say, oh, well, you know, take these 2-3 fights, we can get to British, European, whatever their level is. So I thought, look, I know for a fact that just through doing it with these guys and actually seeing what the steps I put into practice to get people 6-12 months down the line, when they got to having those fights and they won, I was like, okay, I'll kind of, you know, I was doing it too often, you know, for it to be luck. Yeah. So yeah, I just quite excited at the prospect of moving into that, and it felt like kind of evolution for me to go from the matchmaking into the management. Fortunate with, you know, I think I've got a relatively good reputation in the industry, and sort of half had fighters when I was matching, oh mate, I'd love you to be managing me, as a bit of a joke and stuff. So yeah, it just felt like the time for me to kind of make that transition. Also, once you've had a professional license for 3 years, you're applicable to get a professional manager's license. So I got that in early Feb this year. So
perfect. You're not looking back. So how did the working with Callum Smith come about? And obviously Eddie Hearn said it, the biggest fight of the year so far. So how did you get involved with Team Smith and stuff like that?
Yeah, so I've always been like particularly close with Callum, you know, on a personal level, but also I've been out to Jeddah with him. I was out in New York with the rest of the Matchroom contingency, but Eddie and myself went out to Jeddah. But you know, Callum was in the World Boxing Super Series. I went out to Germany as well with him. So I kind of, you know, he felt confident in leaving me to go out there with the guys. But Sean O'Toole, the business partner, Sean is Callum's sort of legal advisor. And when Callum made the transition from becoming managed to self-managed, sort of Sean has kind of assisted Callum quite predominantly. So when I linked up with Sean, it was obviously a conversation Sean had with Callum, and well, obviously went well because I'm here. But yeah, I've kind of like this week of, you know, Callum is the boss. He calls all the shots and stuff, and I think people would be quite surprised at how he is privately. He's not sort of one to go ranting and raving, of course, but he's his own man. He knows what he wants to do. He's worked hard to get to this level, and you know, even just there's smaller things he wants to, and rightly so, kind of make the decisions and the calls on. And you know, he's earned his opportunity in that. And our role this week is just to make life as easy as possible. Yesterday was a long day on the media bit, and just helping Callum making it as easy as possible. Like today, just, you know, okay, people want to ensure that people that have taken their time to come here and sit in a bubble for a week get a bit of face time with Callum, but in the same breath he's got a fight, so we're kind of just trying to manage that process. And I think, touch wood, it's gone well this week. So I think Callum seems, well, everyone's saying how sort of relaxed and chilled he is, and that's all down to him. But I just think as a team, everyone, Joe, Scott Nutrition, Scott S&C, Sean, the brothers of course are always by his side. I think everyone's played a part. The dad, Paul Senior, big up Paul Senior, what a man. And I think everyone's played a part in just ensuring that Callum is as calm as possible, and he can just go into the ring and just perform his best on Saturday.
I do want to talk about your thoughts on this fight as well, but I asked you this question, I think, at the airport, and I asked you again at the lobby, like, your passion is boxing and stuff like that, but you're like a fighter, like everyone in the sport, you get new goals in life, you know what I mean, you want to find something new. So I asked you this question, like, is it a passion of yours to take a kid from like I probably you're probably tapping up fighters right now, you probably won't mention them, but is it a passion of yours to maybe grab a fighter out of like the amateur scene, turn him pro, manage him from the start, and then bring him all the way to something like this, one of the biggest fights of the year, and become world champion?
I'd love to be sat in this, not this seat, but in the same position in 7 years' time, where I've actually taken that individual. I mean, that'd be incredible. Hopefully, be a bit slimmer. But
I think we get fat as we get older.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm hoping that a bit slimmer. But yeah, no, that'd be amazing. I think certainly from the work we're doing with just speaking to people in the GB's team, and we're fortunate, just myself, I'm kind of they're the level of individuals I'm attracting. So yeah, it'd be amazing to get someone that goes to Tokyo and they get a medal, and then we sort of have an amazing journey together, just guiding their career and just making life as easy as possible for them. I think it'd be really cool.
I know you probably can't say names, but do anything. But is it one of them? Can we look forward to some big names with STN in the future?
Definitely. It's the best names have got everyone speaking to them. So there's all other management companies that are out there. Some brilliant management companies that are operating at the minute, and we're well in the mix there with getting some of these guys and girls from the GB team, and that for me that's the primary focus at the moment. Look, I would certainly take. I mean, Callum. I wouldn't say I'm his advisor, part of a supporting advisory team between us, but I've got capacity to obviously qualify someone who I'm working now when he returns in the ring early next year. But I have got capacity now, I think, to take one. I would take one existing professional at the moment. If they were managerless or out of contract from that, I'd certainly be receptive to having a conversation. But the primary focus is getting the GB guys to qualify first and foremost, and then signing them up. But I'd like to have between 5 to 7 that I manage fully myself from scratch. And the reason I want to have that number is because it just ensures that I can do a proper job. I can go and see them. We can have that rapport and relationship. I know exactly what's going on in their personal life. Vice versa. They they understand me as well. And I think just to have that sort of level of depth of trust and understanding, I want to have a small team. I don't want to be someone that I'll see you once every 6 months, and the fighter doesn't feel loved or cared for. I think it's important to have that relationship with them.
Definitely, well said there. So this is obviously a stay tuned scenario and many more interviews to come, but we're here in San Antonio, we're here in the bubble. Callum Smith versus Canelo, and we've been Canelo versus Callum Smith, should I say. Well, Callum's a champion, so his name should be here, but yeah, definitely. But well, it's been quite a crazy fight week for your first sort of major fight week to be involved in as an advisor management type role. So first of all, you've been with Callum the last 4 or 5 days since we've been here. I can't remember, 4 days.
We got in
Sunday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Yeah. So 4 days or whatever it is. How is Callum feeling, and how's the actual overall team? I have seen them, but for you on a personal level up in the rooms, how are they feeling?
Yeah, no, it's really good. The atmosphere is amazing. I mean, Callum's been up, with his brothers and Johnny Reynolds and some of the other guys. I've yet to play Mario Kart because I'd be shit. Daughter's got a Switch, and I'm getting embarrassed by a 7-year-old, so there's no chance I'm going to stand.
You don't play ping pong either?
Not really, mate. No. Leave it to the pros. That's kind of my style. But I think it's you've witnessed it yourself. We've had a few drinks, but the atmosphere is great. The rapport's good. Callum is in an amazing place, and I think we're in for something very, very special on Saturday night. When you saw he's done all his media commitments, he was just playing ping pong with Liam, and he's so chilled, but he's so in the zone. It's ridiculous. And the time I've spent with him, we spent a lot of time together yesterday. I've gone up and chilled in his room with him and the brothers, and I've not once had the conversation with him about the fight. I'm like, how do you see it? Do you think you need to land this shot on that? He's getting that from everyone else. So we were in the holding area earlier, and Canelo's at the end of the corridor, and we're talking about his Callum's partners of sort of Scottish origin, and we were talking about he went up to telling me when he went up to an Old Firm derby, but just talking a normal conversation I'd had with him, because it's important more so now than ever just that his head is where possible. He's getting those opportunities just to switch off and think about other things. And he sort of lit up when we were talking about the old thing. He was like, mate, the atmosphere was unbelievable and stuff as well. Probably one for you to maybe bring up with him when you see him.
I've spoken to him about it before. Yeah. And I said to him, because his wife is from Glasgow, so but if you ever got an opportunity to go on Old Firm, Paul, as long as you sit in the, I won't say because people might think, but you know what colour I am.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think it's something that every sports fan needs to experience. It's definitely on the bucket list to go and watch that. But him telling me about it earlier. But again, it's just he's such he's so switched on.
He's calm, isn't he?
He's very calm, and look, he'll have his final session this evening, and he's very close to the weight. He's exactly where he needs to be, and I think you're going to see a very special performance on Saturday night.
You are obviously an advisor, and you're the management. Are you a manager to Callum? I'm not too sure, but an advisor to Callum.
So Callum's, one thing I'll make about Callum is self-managed, so he's his own boss. I've got managers. I don't manage Callum at all. So Callum manages himself. I'm here with Sean to support him. Sean supports on the legal. I've been his PR guy, his social media guy, sorted his gloves out. Just anything that he needs, and just to help out. And I think just to ensure that if I make his life easier this week, and again he's kind of guiding on how he wants certain things to be, and rightly so. But yeah, it's important that he's involved, but he's making all the decisions on what's going on.
Definitely. What I was going to say is that you are involved in the team in that, but from your backstory, starting the blog and that, you are a fan, a huge fan of boxing. So when you look at the weigh-in, and not the weigh-in, the sort of head-to-heads that they've had, and the size difference, and Callum the way he is, the size of Canelo and stuff like that, and in your own mind, have you broke down the fight? Have you got a vision how this fight's going to go?
Yeah, I think so, because they always say like a good big and beats a good small, and Canelo's an exceptional. He's a generational fighter, not just in terms of how popular he is and the fanatical following of the Mexicans, but he can fight technically. He's very well rounded. Not really seen him hurt. I'm sure Joe would disagree with his kind of granular detail that he's done, but there will be opportunities and things for him to exploit. They will fancy themselves against Callum, I think, after his last fight, but I think you're going to see a completely different Callum. He's so galvanised and just mentally in such a different place for this fight. I think he's going to be really special. But yeah, look, I think it'll be cagey early. They can both punch. I'm fascinated to see what happens when Callum touches Canelo for the first time. Even just if he just catches something on the arms or just a glancing shot over the shoulder, and obviously it'd be great if he just pops one and there's a bit of a stumble or a stiff in the legs. But yeah, that for me is fascinating. Just to sit. What about yourself? What, like, when you think about this fight at the weekend, what are you, other than the pair of them coming together, is there any moments for you think, now I want to see what happens when this happens? Or
well, I'm glad you've asked. Well, this is the first time I've ever been asked a question on my channel, Paul, so I'm going to thank you for that.
Well, mate, we'll swap seats if you want.
I don't like. You're prettier than me, man. People are going to go, I'll check that when I sit there, right? Anyway, I've always thought Canelo's just a superstar, man. It's going to be hard for anyone to beat him, 168 downwards and stuff like that. But just being around Callum and just seeing how relaxed him, and people, he looks skinny, Callum. But when you're up close and personal with him, he's got big arms, he's got big legs, his hands are like shovels, like you say, and he can bang. So I'm like, they're both in their prime. It's not like a washed cov. No, not a washed cov. It's probably disrespectful to say that, but
Joe made a good point in the press conference, didn't he? Where he said they're both 30, so he's probably the youngest. This could be one for some of the anoraks out there. But who's the last person that Canelo boxed that was younger than him?
Liam.
Yeah. So, at the time, Liam's older than Callum. So Callum and Canelo are the same age.
The same age? Was it roughly about the same age?
Yeah,
I think.
yeah. I don't know if there's 18 months between Liam and Callum, but yeah. So he's fighting someone that's in his prime. We'll never say that he's certainly not cherry-picked any of his opponents, because he's boxed everyone and he's got zero fear. But I think equally for Callum, he's so up for this fight, and yeah, I just think it's going to be really good.
Callum win for you then, eh?
Of course, yeah. Look, I think could end up being a meme for this, but I just think at some point it's going to explode and Callum can finish. They can both finish. So I think if either of them sniffs blood, it could be over. And I think with Callum will know that in his head, that how dangerous he is. But I think Canelo, I was around Canelo a bit for Danny Jacobs. I was out for that fight, working for Matchroom at the time, and I don't know. There's no animosity here. There's kind of an underlying sort of silent respect, and I think within that you're gonna get fireworks. It's gonna catch fire at some point just because of their styles. I'd be surprised if Canelo got on his bike and just sort of danced around. He's going to have to come, because of his size, he's going to have to come inside. Callum fights so well inside, but Callum's distance judging is so good. So they're both going to be setting traps. I think it's going to be quite an intelligent, a bit of a chess match in parts, but I think at one point someone's going to land a clean shot, and then it's all going to kick off. It'll be amazing.
I'm totally looking forward to it. Like, as I am a boxing fan, as more than I am an idiot with a camera. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. I want to get your thoughts on, obviously, the big fight that we're all wanting to see as well. Before I let you go, is Joshua and Fury. I mean, have you thought about this fight? And we need to see it now, don't we?
Yeah, no, we do need to see it, and I think it's. The time is now. I'm hoping. I spoke to someone that you'd like to think hopefully the WBO will be on the line and all the belts, but then equally, if it's not, does it make any difference? I think both guys want it. We'd love to see it in the UK, but I think being realistic, they are prize fighters, so they are going to go where it's going to benefit them, the pair of them the most financially. But I think can you just imagine that first press conference with Tyson and Anthony, and they're both going to be buying each other. I mean, it's going to be just box office, just fireworks. But I think the fight itself, because I don't think I'd be surprised if Tyson approached the fight like he did against Deontay. The second time he just went out there zero. He's going to respect Anthony's size. He's going to expect what's coming back. I'm not saying that Wilder was a particularly small fighter, but Anthony's got a physical presence about him, so he's going to respect that. And yeah, look, I think it will be a bit of a chess match. Same with that. What happens when Anthony hits Tyson? I mean, Tyson can punch, but I think Anthony's such an explosive fighter, and he can finish as well. So yeah, look, I think it'll be very special. And it's one where you get some, probably like yourself, you get those fights where you can see any eventuality. If it's a shootout in the first round, if someone gets stopped in 6 rounds, if it's a 12-round war and it ends up a draw, you wouldn't be surprised at any kind of eventuality there, because I think they're both technically not bad, but a problem for each other. I think someone physically that's in front of Tyson that's fit and strong, and he's going to be pressing him, it's going to be difficult. Equally, Tyson can be elusive and box, and he could just go back foot and just jab and just throw a right hand and just make it quite a challenging night for Anthony as well. So yeah, it's one of those fights where everyone's going to have an opinion, but anything could happen at any point, and that's just what makes it exciting.
Definitely. Is this the first time you've seen Eddie since you left Matchroom? If so, what kind of advice, or has he said anything about being in the manager's role?
Yeah, I think Reddy, when we launched STN, he put a comment on my Instagram, my personal social media, which was decent of him. But yeah, we saw each other at breakfast. So those guys come in the fanfare last night, which was quite cool.
Yeah, I filmed it.
Did you film it? Yeah. Kind of heard about it. So yeah, we saw each other at breakfast. He was over. He was eating when I walked in, and then as he was getting up, I was eating. But went over, we had a chit chat. Frank Smith as well. Big up.
See them again?
Yeah, no, it's good to see the guys. I mean, look, we've spent a lot of time together. Worked together 5 years, but as you know yourself, when you're in these bubbles and these fight week environments, it's an intense time, isn't it? You spend a lot of extended time with these guys. But now look, Matchroom have been brilliant. The bubble, how they've been doing the fight camp. The fight camp was ridiculous. I really enjoyed watching that, and even at the SSE arena, just how it all looks visually, and the fights as well, because look, there's no small hall, so you're having more compact cards. You've got Macaulay. It's really brought out some characters, hasn't it? Like sort of characters that perhaps would have never really got an opportunity to get on TV should it be in this environment. So I think as a whole, it's been very successful, and yeah, the guys are smashing it still. So whilst I hope that, I'm sure we will work together, I'm open to working with everybody. Just because I've worked for Matchroom, I don't expect any kind of preferential treatment or any favours from there. I'll do what's best for the fighters that I'm working with. But yeah, look, I'd like to think Eddie and I are cool. Frank and myself are cool. We had a little hugged it out earlier, which was nice. And yeah, look, it's great to see everyone. Sean Palmer as well. Sean's a great guy. So one of the Brits that's repping it out here for Matchroom, and Sean and I have always got on very well. And even since I've left, personal level, we have a couple of calls, maybe a month and stuff, just non-boxing, just catching up. So yeah, no, just a great group of people out here.
Is there anyone you'd like to shout out?
I would like to shout out yourself. Shout out yourself, mate. And yeah, big up IFL. You guys are doing big things, and yeah, long may it continue. What's your prediction for Saturday?
Paul. For you, Callum Smith win.
Yeah, no, mate, that's the only answer you can say. But no, mate, thank you. You've been great company with everyone. I think it's important that whilst we've got a really tight-knit, close team, everyone gets on well. It's nice to have yourself and Andy from
BoxNation.
From BoxNation, yeah. So it's been, but I think everyone's kind of we've all sort of mucked in and integrated well together, and we've had a good giggle, and I'm sure we'll have a few more before business starts on Saturday night. But looking forward to it.
Me too, Paul. This is probably going to be the first of many interviews since you're the face of the STN, I suppose, are you? You are the face. I'm going to leave it. I'm not going to let you answer that. I'm not going to let you. You're the face of STN. Paul, it's always a pleasure to see you, my friend, and congratulations on your new role in the business, and I hope it really goes well, and I'm looking forward to the new signings of fighters when they come out, and good luck with you and Team Smith.
Thank you very much. Big up Mr. Coog as well. He's going to be a father soon, isn't he? So yeah, there'll be baby IFL TV as well. So no, TV. Yeah, but no, pleased for Coog. I'm sure he'll be a good dad.
Yep, I agree with that. Well, congratulations, Coog. Paul, thanks very much, my mate. Enjoy.
This is something that comes along every now and then in generation, and it's special.
Is your debt causing you sleepless nights? Knock your debt out with Debt KO. And your debt won't be the only thing keeping you up at night. Debt KO, free impartial advice on all your debt.